Hi guys, this is GSMDome.com and I'm here with a review of the very skinny Motorola Edge 70, the latest mid-range phone from Motorola. It measures below 6mm in thickness and this time it has a flat screen compared to the curved screen Motorola Edge 60. Unlike that model, it ditches the telephoto camera and replaces the MediaTek processor with a Snapdragon, a potent Snapdragon 7 Gen 4, also dedicated AI button which triggers Moto AI, which now can even interact with, Copilot Vision better said. Now the handset here has a pretty appealing price, something like $400, but in Eastern Europe they're bundling it with a charger, a watch, a Moto tag, headphones, so it's a crazy good offer. Now, first of all, the design. This is one of the skinny phones which are trendy right now. You know, we got the Nubia Air from ZTE, Galaxy S25 Edge, iPhone Air. And this one is not as skinny as the iPhone Air or the S25 Edge, but still pretty skinny. The predecessor was 7.9mm, this is 5.9mm. And we're dealing here with a version called Pantone Gadget Gray. There are two other green color versions, also Pantone, but what I would like to highlight here is the texture of the backside, which imitates leather and increases the grip of the phone. The slope towards the camera is gentler than the predecessor, and the frame, as far as I know, is made of aluminum, so it should be pretty robust if you really want to do a bend test. Okay, now the phone keeps the resilience of the predecessor, IP68, IP69, and even military certification, so that's pretty cool. It feels pretty solidly built, and it's got a screen protected by Gorilla Glass 7i at the front side. Also excellent grip, flat frame, flat back, flat facade, so nothing to complain about when it comes to the build. So we have here the version called Gadget Gray, as I said before, and the weight is mighty impressive, 159 grams. The predecessor was 179 grams. So it's pretty cool. It's aerospatial aluminum for those of you wondering. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, we actually should have a test video prepared here to put the display to the test. Go something like this. Obviously AMOLED panel, that's the standard nowadays for Motorola. 6.7-inch P-OLED screen. The exact same diagonal of the Galaxy S25 Edge. Resolution is 2712 over 1220 pixels, 120 Hz refresh rate, and HDR10 Plus support, as well as Gorilla Glass 7i. 90% screen to body ratio, and I would say pretty decent view angle, as you can see for yourself. A pretty bright panel with not so bad contrast in the full sunlight. Now let's see how we did in our brightness test. Okay, so let's check out this website, our sister website with all the tests. Sister website in Romanian, and this is the screen brightness. I would say a pretty okay 801 lux. We've seen plenty of phone going above 1000 lux, but at least this one beats its predecessor. The Motorola Edge 60 before it had something like 785 lux. It's brighter than the Galaxy A54, Motorola Edge 50 Fusion, Razer 50, but at the same time with this value, let's see, it's beaten by the OnePlus Nord 4, Galaxy A36, iPhone 16e, so that's the ballpark where it's at. Now inside we find an interesting processor. When I say interesting, brand new, Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 4, 4nm processor, octa-core, and the predecessor had a mere MediaTek Dimensity 7300. This one here has a main core clocked at 2.8 GHz. We got the Adreno 722 GPU, and we also have a pretty decent amount of RAM, 12 GB of RAM here, as well as 512 GB of storage. We don't have a micro SD card slot, but if you go into the settings and dig deep enough, you should be able to find the option that lets you do the RAM boost, add an extra bit of RAM taken from the storage up to 12 gigs extra. Now, as far as the benchmarks are concerned, they honestly are not bad. So if you go here to the benchmarks, and if you go to the throttling test, we're only losing 17% of the performance after running the test for 15 minutes. Once again, not bad. Better than the Honor Magic 7 Lite and quite a few other phones. Better than the Galaxy A36, Oppo Reno 13FS, Motorola Edge 50 Fusion, and hundreds of other phones. The worst of them lost 50% performance, and some of them even have Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, so not bad. In Antutu 10, we're just above the Huawei Mate X6 and the OnePlus Nord 4. In general, we were around the Galaxy A56 and OnePlus Nord 4, more often than not surpassing them, and also the Oppo Reno 14 series. This is Geekbench 6 multi-core, for example. In the 3D Mark test, we're above the Xperia 5 Mark IV, above the Honor 400, and above the Galaxy A56 as I mentioned before. And the temperature was quite decent, even though it's such a slim phone and you would worry about its capacity to cool down. 35.1 degrees Celsius in benchmarks, while in games 33.7 degrees Celsius. So definitely no overheating here. Now let's talk about the battery. So first things first, even though it's such a skinny phone, it has a pretty large battery, 4800 mAh, and this is not a huge decrease from the predecessor, which was around 5200 mAh. So I would say this is pretty cool. And you can actually confirm it not only on our site, but in this application, 4800 mAh. You're also treated to a charging which is pretty fast, 67 watts, 68 watts via wire, 15 watts wireless, and that's pretty cool. Now, let's see the battery life, because I'm sure you're curious about that, particularly for such a slim phone. Excellent video playback time, 27 hours, 28 minutes, above Huawei Pura 70 Ultra, above Nothing Phone 2, and above the Realme 14 Pro Plus. Now, I should also mention that we beat the recently launched Xiaomi 15T Pro, so we're beating quite a few MediaTek heavy hitters. The predecessor had 22 hours and 42 minutes. It's actually a jump from it. The continuous usage isn't that impressive, only 11 hours and 57 minutes. It fits in the range of the Galaxy A52, Motorola Edge 50 Fusion, maybe older phones. It's about the same time we got with the Edge 60, so not a decrease, not an increase, around the same area. And pretty close to the Galaxy S25 Edge, which had 12 hours and 26 minutes. The charging is fine in my book, 40 minutes for a full top-up from 0 to 100%, and in 15 minutes you're at 53%. In my book, this passes the test with flying colors. Now, unlike the iPhone Air, which has a singular speaker, this one has a stereo setup. Bottom speaker here, and the top speaker is actually this small earpiece. We also have the inscription Dolby Atmos here, and if you dig deep enough into the settings, let's see. So if you go to the Moto application and you go to the Play, you go to Dolby Atmos, you got your Dolby Atmos feature here, you got your spatial audio, smart audio, music, movie, game, podcast, and custom, so there's something for everyone out there. Okay, now we go further and let's try to find a song to properly do the test here, or better said, an acoustic sample. Honestly, I'm not that impressed by the sound. The acoustic chambers don't sound very powerful, so yeah, I feel that the top speaker doesn't contribute much to the experience. The bass isn't very potent, only the high notes will make it through, and even those a bit distorted. I would say it's more of a mid-range experience. However, this one is actually not confirmed by the test we have here, believe it or not. So the top speaker delivered 80 decibels and the bottom one 88.4 decibels at a typical acoustic test. It's more than actually felt. We surpassed several OnePlus Nord phones, and keep in mind we have 600 phones tested and this placed on around the 142nd spot, so it's pretty high compared to nowadays expectation, beating Motorola Edge 50 Neo, beating Honor Magic 7 Pro, which is a flagship, and beating hundreds of other phones including the Google Pixel 9. In gaming, also doing well, 95.7 decibels. In Asphalt Legends, no, it's not bad, but at the end of the day, it seems to focus more on volume and less on rich acoustics. Speaking of rich, let's talk about the cameras. 50 megapixel shooter at the front, two 50 megapixel shooters at the back. We lost the telephoto camera with 3x optical zoom of the predecessor. So first things first, main camera 50 megapixel f1.8 aperture, optical image stabilization PDAF. Secondary camera ultra wide 50 megapixel 120 degree autofocus for your macro needs, LED flash, and a mystery third sensor probably for the anti-flicker. The 50 megapixel camera can film in 4K, and that's all you need to know about it. Now, if you look at the camera interface, basically nothing changes from the previous Motorola Edge phones we've tested. Ultra Res takes full resolution 50 megapixel shots. There's time lapse here, panorama, group shot, scan, photo booth, dual capture. The Pro mode with tweaks for the exposure, ISO, shutter, white balance, and focus. We also have portrait with some options and beautifications features. We also have the night vision. We have photo with 4 focal lengths. So this is the macro, the ultra wide, the 1x and 2x. And by the way, 2x looks like optical zoom nowadays via the crop and magic of digital thingies. You also have this option here for your color profiles. You can take natural or signature style. Motorola, one of the companies with the signature style. Video can be shot up to 4K in 30. If you choose 60, you're commuted automatically to Full HD, so 4K 30. We also have the horizon lock. Basically, you can rotate the phone like this, and the line of the horizon remains stuck in the middle of the screen. And now slow motion. That's pretty much it about the camera setup. As far as I know, let me actually confirm that for you. If you go to the video, you also have here HDR10 capture, which is not something bad to have on a mid-range phone. Now let's talk about the actual camera samples. Okay, so first things first, the selfies. I would have to say that the 50 megapixel camera catches quite a bit of detail when it comes to these selfies, facial texture, the shadows falling on the face and all that. I'm quite impressed by this camera. And as you can see, the bokeh cuts the subject perfectly from what's behind him. Now, aside from that, let's see how he did outdoors. Just as good. The capture, I'm actually curious about the resolution it's taken at. So if I go here, I should probably learn more about it. Okay, f2.0 aperture, resolution is 12 megapixels. So yeah, it's pretty detailed for a 12 megapixel shot. It probably combines more pixels in one, giving such a detailed feature. It doesn't overprocess the subject, which is always high praise. Yeah, the problem is that if you have a strong sun behind you, there should be some overexposure happening from the vegetation behind you, but that's I would say, a rare scenario. Overall, I'm quite happy by the capture of the camera, except for the colors of the background. Now, speaking of colors, it's time to tackle the main camera, the ultra-wide camera, and the actual colors, of which we have plenty. So, first of all, pretty impressive reds. They're a bit too saturated for my taste. They actually remind me of what a Samsung would achieve. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by the shots we'd taken with the sun among the clouds, color-wise. The colors of the fall are here, and they're looking brilliant, particularly on the main camera. I'm actually happy to inform you that the macros and the close-ups are excellent. As you can see for yourself, the texture is right at home, so nothing to complain about that there. We have plenty of close-ups and macros and things like that, artistic shots showing us the colors of the fall. Usually we rely on a special fence in our area to properly calibrate the colors. It feels like a pixel. It actually reminds me of the Google Pixel 9a, if I remember correctly. That's the color calibration here. At the same time vivid, at the same time muted, if you can believe it. Okay, so I actually am also happy by the fact that we're getting a ultra-wide camera with a high resolution this time. Sometimes when you have a 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera, it doesn't quite deliver. So yeah, there's that. Of course, the zoom is nothing to write home about. You should stick to 2x or 3x if need be. But honestly, not a bad 2x and not a bad 3x, considering the lack of a telephoto camera. Okay, so this is a regular shot, nothing out of the ordinary. Ultra-wide shot catching this man here rushing by. And as you can see, not a big color difference between the two, main and ultra-wide. Okay, aside from that, we probably also have some love for bokeh here. We even tried out a crazy zoom, so a regular shot, we started zooming in, and honestly, this digital zoom is actually above expectations. This is how far we got. Obviously, there's some grain, but still in my book, pretty impressive. And once again, the macro and the close-ups are the ones that shine the most. Even though it's November now, almost December, we even managed to score some flowers. Somehow the roses are still alive, and the saturation of colors is quite decent here. And we also made a sort of bokeh by blurring the subjects behind the flower. I would say in a pretty fine manner, with nothing to complain about, as you can see for yourself here. So all in all, even the sky, and even with the sun in front of us, we have excellent colors, albeit on the ultra-wide. There may have been some oversaturation here and there, but the main camera remains the star of the show with its clarity and colors. These are daytime shots. Let's talk about the low light now. Now, we took some photos at night around this store, and we had plenty of halos and reflections. Obviously, the ultra-wide is nothing to write home about, but all in all, I like the fact that it doesn't exaggerate with the brightness. The selfies are quite spot on. It's something that Motorola usually handles, selfies at night. I remember even the lower G models deliver decent colors. Of course, you can definitely rely on the night vision mode if you really want to. I have to admit that some light sources are a bit overblown, turn into small suns, but in general the clarity and the colors were quite fine. Not on ultra wide, I feel the need to repeat that myself. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Once again, for a walk in the park, decent shades and colors. You have to be patient for the selfies because they take a while to get properly decent selfies. If you move too much, you'll get, well, not so Instagrammable shots. This is too bright, this is too exposed, this is actually better, so you best be careful if you use or not use the night vision mode. Zoom obviously doesn't work at night. You can see here a lot of grain around the trees, so maybe skip that. But this shot, you could mistake it for a Galaxy S25 Edge picture. It looks perfect, looks flagship worthy. Once again, focusing up close doesn't produce any problems. This is a greenhouse around my area with beautiful greens. Even the street halos are nicely caught. I'm talking about their size. So all in all, you're not losing anything if you're not buying a flagship, if you rely mostly on close-ups and just want Instagrammable photos without being too lit or too dark. I like the fact that some light sources aren't exaggerated or aren't overblown or aren't just white and that's all. You can actually perceive what's written behind them. This is actually a cool shot. People are coming from a brighter area to a darker area and the camera balances out perfectly the darkness inside the store here, the overly bright scenario here, and the overly dark part where I am at taking the photo. So all in all, quite good at night. And now let's talk about the videos. To properly talk about the videos, I would like to actually tackle this in the form of a folder. So videos, as you can see, we have plenty of them. Actually, I have trouble deciding which one to start with. And as you can see, quite a bit of oversaturation of our exposure, particularly in the grass. It feels almost radioactive, that green glass. But the focus is quite spot on. I mean, the clarity is there and things are beautiful, but the grass is the problem I'm having. Obviously, stabilization is, I would say, fine at first sight. Looks fine, but if you look at more videos, you see there's a slight pendulum move here and there. Horizon lock will put the resolution at Full HD, so you may not be wanting that. The colors are okay, albeit the vegetation a bit too saturated for my taste. There is some overexposure when the sun really shines on what you're capturing, but the close-up is perfect, so the focus is probably the highlight of the show. People would actually believe this is shot with a sort of, I don't know, maybe flagship. Okay, so selfie video, not bad, pretty good focus, nice clarity, a slight bokeh effect, good enough for your TikTok needs. And then we go further, let's see what else we have here. Definitely lots of saturation and contrast happening here. Let's actually see what the microphone can do. Not the worst stabilization as I said before, but some weird effects here and there. Now let's see the nighttime capture. Let's start with this one. Definitely losing some of the clarity of the image when walking around. A bit of trepidation and the light sources are a bit too big for my taste. These are the street lights. They're overly expanded like small suns, as you can tell for yourself. And then we have this one here. Trying out the zoom with some reflections. Each of the light sources, like the panels for McDonald's, Ocean and other stores, have a slight contour around them, particularly when you start to zoom in. So, of course, I would say typical drawbacks for a mid-range phone. But the clarity, I feel, that distinguishes it, it perhaps could be the fault, so to say, of the CPU and its more powerful processing. Okay, enough about the camera, let's talk about connectivity. Okay, so connectivity-wise, we got 5G, we got Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.4, USB-C 2.0 with OTG, GPS, Galileo, GLONASS, BDS, QZSS, everything you need here. The calls are loud and clear, and we did a bunch of speed tests, and the results that came out go like this. On Wi-Fi, up to 599 megapsecond downloads, 764 megapsecond uploads. On 5G, pretty impressive, 888 on 5G. The carrier is Orange and 142 uploads. I would say we're doing quite fine. I should also mention that you have Smart Connect, so you can interconnect your devices, but more about that in a software section. This is Android 16, the first Motorola with Android 16 and the Motorola interface on top of it. You're getting 4 years of Androids, and I would say we also have multiple AI features. Starting with this button here, this extra blue button, you keep it pressed and you're going to trigger some of the Motorola Moto AI features. You can ask it, you can have it search for stuff online, you can ask Copilot Vision what it's perceiving around it. This is basically something like, you know, Apple has Apple Vision Intelligence, and we also have Gemini Live. It's similar to those. It looks around you and recognizes stuff. Now, aside from that, Moto AI can do a bunch of things. It can use keywords to generate art. Pay attention basically will transcribe and record for you. It can also look what's on the screen. Basically, it's like your secretary and records what you write and transcribes it. Remember this, it's also useful to create a memento for a photo or some information. You can ask or search or catch me up. A pretty cool feature if you're going into a movie or a concert. You're putting your phone in your backpack, you don't look at it for an hour. Basically, if you have 50 notifications, you can get a summary through this. That's Moto AI in a nutshell. Of course, Gemini Live is also here, and you can obviously ask it questions. You can go to the live part, you can interact with the camera, you can share the screen and more in a ton of languages. We also have circle to search. Keep the screen pressed, circle something that's on the screen and look it up online. At the same time, translate what's on the screen and even recognize songs. Google now has AI overview included in its search engine, and that's only the AI part. Then comes the Motorola part. Motorola part is huge with personalization. You got your custom themes, colors, fonts, icon shapes, lock screen, display size and text, layout, fingerprint animation, sounds, dark mode, a lot. The gestures are here to launch applications and features. We also have the play area, and aside from the Dolby Atmos, you have the gaming. So if you're going to start a game, like let's say, let's turn down the volume a bit. If you're going to start Asphalt, you have a pool panel from the side with the performance modes. You get balanced, you get the turbo and battery saving. You see the CPU and GPU, FPS, RAM, temperature, block calls, Wi-Fi latency, acoustic lights. What is this? Okay, so this actually has me curious. Okay, so it basically, is it lighting up the flash? Oh, it's lighting up the area around the screen, I guess. It's something pretty weird. A pretty weird feature. I would expect it on a gaming phone, but still it's pretty good that we have customization here. Let's move forward. So that's the Moto app, that's the fun part. We also have tips, Moto Secure and display. Moto Secure is also packaged as a separate app. It has a secure folder, anti-phishing protection, anti-scam protection, pin pad scramble, everything to protect you, and particularly the elderly, which are more susceptible to hacks. Family Space creates a profile for your young child, creates a parental control. We have the gaming area, Moto Unplugged. If you want to unwind on your holiday, you can cut all the notifications and the hardcore apps. You're just going to have your phone, message, and camera, the basic applications. And then we get your notes. There's a note-taking application here, and you can have your notes like this. You can actually edit them. There's a summarize for it. There are less features than what you would get on a Xiaomi, an Oppo, or a Samsung, but still you have a note-taking application. At least there's that. And finally, Smart Connect. You can interconnect your device with a laptop, a Moto Tag, a watch, a tablet, a TV set, headphones, and more. And these are the features. You can stream your applications from the phone, use your phone as a hotspot, use your phone as a webcam, share the cursor on these devices, you can see here, or a clipboard. So it's a all-out interconnectivity. I would say this is pretty much it. We have the full Google suite here. I don't think I forgot anything. And aside from all those AIs, you also have Perplexity. So you gain access to Gemini, Copilot, and Perplexity, which is here for you and can do a ton of things. It has top stories, tech and science. It feels like Encarta from back in the day when I was in junior school. Okay, fine folks, this is the end of the review. It's time to do the verdict of the Motorola Edge 70, the skinniest mid-range phone I've played with recently. I know there's also the Nubia Air from ZTE, but that's actually thicker than this one. The first Pro is comfortable, easy to maneuver, and ergonomic. It's very good looking in green. Sadly, I don't have the green one, I have the gray one. Lots of benefits for the pre-order. So, for example, here in Romania, the price is around, let's say, maybe 800 euros or something like that. I think my math is correct. Oh Okay, so let's say 800 euros, yes? And the benefits you're getting are something like 600 euros, which will cut the price down to 200 euros. Once again, I'm not sure which of you are watching from which country, but I'm sure that we have a lot of people in India, for example, where Motorola is popular. Calculate that and see how big of a benefit you're getting. Obviously, the phone is not worth 800 euros, but it's also not worth 200. So if you're getting so many benefits, it's still a steal. Okay, so of course the pre-order offer only lasts for 500 units, so people had to rush locally. Resilient body to tough contacts, water, radiation, and flat screen, which makes it comfortable if you're going to play some games. Quite bright screen and narrow bezels, I would have to say. Satisfying battery life considering the thickness. No overheating, a very fast charging, 40 minutes. Pleasant selfies. It does very well with close-ups and macros. Digital zoom is quite decent and above expectations. The night mode was also above expectation. I would say a precise focus when filming, lots of details when filming, fast connectivity, and lots of AI features, Moto AI, Gemini, Perplexity, Copilot Vision, the works. Now, when it comes to the cons, I should probably mention several things. So, you're not getting a charger in the box, at least not in Romania here. The battery life is not as impressive when it comes to continuous usage. The speakers are a bit underwhelming and a bit entry level. Android 16 and Moto UI don't bring much novelty from the previous generations, only 4 years of updates. The ultra-wide camera doesn't quite impress when it comes to the colors, particularly at night. Some of the selfies are not very constant and some of the portraits are not very constant. There's some overexposure here and there, particularly for filming of vegetation in the sun. And not all the AI features are available in my local language. Now, at the end of the day, this is one of those cool phones that Motorola is selling to teenagers because it's very cheap considering the offers, and it will fast become very cheap as usual for a Moto. In China, it's sold as the Motorola X70 Air, in Europe, Motorola Edge 70. I'm sure it would be part of a series, maybe Motorola Edge 70 Pro, Neo, Fusion, maybe even an Ultra. It's good looking, it's skinny, it's quite powerful on account of the CPU, a decent battery life, and very good ergonomically. What more can you ask of it? It takes flagship worthy close-ups, and I don't actually regret the telephoto camera as much as I thought I would. To be honest, I feel that the ergonomics and the special offers at the debut are the things that sell the phone for themselves. Not sure if you're going to use the AI button, but at least it's there, giving you an extra taste of AI. And there are 3 AIs that work here: Copilot, Perplexity, and Gemini, which is pretty cool. That's it from GSMDome.com. Hope you enjoyed this review straight from Romania, Motorola Edge 70. Goodbye.